how do you make something that looks like this? Pretty enough to turn it into a gift. Today we're going to run down Amaryllis bulb planting, how you can pretty it up and make it into a nice gift for somebody else, or in my case, often for myself. So I think most people are familiar with Amaryllis bulbs. They go to the garden center. On the end cap, there's like a kind of glittery box, and there's like an amaryllis in there. And if you look late enough, it's already sending up a flower stalk that's been curled around and is pale. And that's fine if you want to do that. But there is a whole world of amaryllis out there that I think people don't know about it. There are some really cool amaryllis bulbs that go well beyond your basic all white or all red. And I love to shake it up and plant some of those. And the time to do this depends on what stage you want them in when you give them. So obviously these are a very traditional holiday gift and a great holiday gift. I like to give them to people with at least some growth on them, so we're not just giving them a bulb. If I can get it to my perfect timing would be bud just opening or one flower stalk just opening. They can be a little hard to transport once they start flowering, so that's a consideration. But I like to have a plant growing, so there is an expectation that there will be flowers on or very, very close to Christmas. And the good news is that amaryllis bloom for a long time, so if you give someone a plant that has just started blooming, they will have several weeks of beautiful color. And that's the other thing about amaryllis. They're so easy to plant and grow that they make really nice gifts for people because really you don't have to do a lot. So listen, the first thing is I like to give people a pretty pot. The pot is the gift. The amaryllis is the other part of it. I am not giving this pot away. This one is for me. This is one of my Wakefield handmade glazed pots that I got last year, which I love. So the key thing to know about amaryllis bulbs is that you do not bury these bulbs. So unlike things like daffodils and tulips where we bury the bulb to about twice the depth of the height of the bulb, this one we actually want sticking out of the ground. That means sticking out by at least a third. I prefer to do about half the bulb sticking out. And they will all have, kind of crazy looking roots on the bottom of them. If there's anything that looks like dead, you can take your pruners, not your fingers like I'm doing right here, and you can nip that off, but generally speaking, these will be good to go. And you don't need a big pot for these. You only need a little bit of room around the outside of them. They don't need a lot of water, so you don't have to worry about that. So for this guy, I'm going to kind of spread these roots out because this is quite a shallow little pot that I'm putting this in, and I have a tiny little bit of soil in the bottom of this pot. Just place my bulb in there. By the way, this one has a little bulbette coming off the side of it. That means this is a really mature bulb. And it's just fine to leave that on there. In the future, when you save this bulb, if you do save it, you can break those bulbettes on and grow those on. I never, ever, ever do. Okay, then any potting mix, store-bought potting mix will do. You don't have to get fancy, but don't buy potting soil. Make sure you buy like a potting mix. This is Organic Mechanic Container Blend, which is what I use in everything. And you don't have to get exact about how much of the bulb is sticking out, but err on the side of more bulbs sticking out than less bulbs sticking out. And that's it. Just kind of firm it in nicely. Now you can stop here, or you can decorate the top of this. This is some sheet moss here. I have also used that preserved reindeer moss. I like the chartreuse one. It's kind of goofy. You could put small little acorns on this. You could do little mini pine cones on top of this as a little mulch. But here's the thing. I don't actually add any of those decorative elements until this has started growing, because I don't actually put these anywhere where they need to be pretty until they're actually doing something. What these really would love at this point is just a warm spot, and they actually don't even need light until they actually are putting up any type of foliage or flower. But bottom heat, if you need to do these in a hurry, stick these on your seed germination mats, your heat mats, and that will get them going. So if you're a little bit behind, you can speed up the process by putting them on a heat mat to give them some bottom heat. And as long as your soil is not completely desiccated and dried out, you probably don't need to put any water in these until you start seeing some growth. I usually just dribble a little bit on the top just to make sure it's kind of firmed well. So this is all I'm going to do with this one at this time. Once I bring it out into the world, because it's beautiful and now I want to appreciate it, that is when I will do some decoration or something on top of it. Okay, now I have a pair, and I love to do matching pots for Amaryllis pears. And in this case, these are pots I bought a long time ago, actually for Amaryllis. These are orchid pots, but they work great. They are a great size for Amaryllis, and they have a built-in tray, which is kind of nice. The only thing is I have to cover those holes or else the soil will come flying out of them. So I'm using a little bit of sheet moss. This is sheet moss that I had left over from the hanging baskets that I did hanging from the trees this year, so that's convenient. And I'm only doing the sides, not the bottom, because I don't want to do anything to slow down the drainage in these pots. Now this pear is going to my mom, and I asked her to pick out what pots she wanted to borrow. I always get my pots back. In this case, I get my pots back because she knows I will bring them back with Amaryllis in the next year. So this one is called Exotic Star, and I know my mom is gonna adore this one because it's got kind of a terracotta color to it, which she adores that color. So these came from Longfield Gardens, and that's where I usually get Amaryllis from because they have such a good selection. And these bulbs are huge and nice, and actually you can feel there's actually a lot of growth happening in them already. So just because these pots again are pretty small, and you can see that there's some sort of little root bits at the bottom that are dried up. These little stringy bits are not going to do anything. I'm going to trim these just a little bit because those aren't going to do anything. And what I don't want to do is like wrap the roots around each other. And you can tell little bulbette right there on that too. So that's usually the difference when you buy a single bulb, whether it be at a garden center who's got some really nice ones, or you know, through a mail order bulb specialty place. You will get bulbs that tend to be much bigger than the ones you find that are like in a kit at the garden center. So this is, as you can see, this is quite a tight fit in here. So I just have to kind of carefully work some of my potting mix around those. So once again, you can see this is truly nothing fancy. Just got the bulb kind of perched at the top there with a little bit of a lip, so when we do need to water, some water can get in there, and that's that. Now this is the next two I'm going to do are kind of, well, this is a little, the way I'm doing this is a little strange. I don't know that this is actually going to work, so we'll see. So I have these two pots. I love these pots. However, I have ordered two really pretty glazed pots specifically for Amaryllis from Peter Jackson at Wakefield Handmade. They're not coming till mid-December. And I want those flanking either side of the sink along the edges of the window there, which is so pretty with the window box, the winter window box outside and all the lights on that. And I love the look of a couple of Amaryllis there. And they don't take up a lot of room on the counter because they're, you know, smaller pots. I thought I had some sort of smaller plastic pots that would be the right size, but all I have is gallon-sized pots or something that won't fit an Amaryllis bulb. So I'm actually going to use these, and I'm going to try to transplant these Amaryllis bulbs when I get the new pots. If I can't, I mean, these pots will be fine too, obviously. I just really want to use those new pots. Now, of all of these bulbs, this is the most traditional one, and I don't generally go for the traditional ones because there's just this whole world of Amaryllis out there that I just want to experience. So this one is called Magical Touch, and it is kind of it looks to me like a pinkish red and white. Look at the size of that bulb, holy smokes. And already I see leaves, I think, coming out there. And it's got this kind of white pickety edge, and, you know, I don't mind a little bit of red because I do want these blooming for Christmas. Hopefully. Yeah, see, these like just barely are fitting in this pot. Again, that's no problem. You don't need a lot of room. Sometimes it's nicer to have a little bit more room so you can actually fit them in properly. And since these are hopefully coming out of these pots. I'm definitely not worried about, you know, how anything is looking in terms of aesthetics. It's just to get these guys going and started. Now, one of the ways I love to grow amaryllis bulbs is by grouping them together in a really pretty display and then putting that in the center of the table or on a coffee table or something. And the nicest thing about them is that, you know, you can move them around so easily. So if you're having company over, you can stick them, you know, in the coffee table when normally you maybe wouldn't want that. Okay, this one is called Wild Amazon. Amazone? It's got an E at the end of Amazon. Wild Amazon. And this thing is unlike any, I don't know that I've ever seen a picture of an amaryllis that looks like this, and I think it's going to be cool. It's also kind of nice sometimes to have these amaryllis that aren't traditional Christmas colors, because I don't know about you, but once, you know, January comes around and I've taken down my Christmas decorations, I don't really want to see a lot of red around. I'm ready to move on to other brighter, fun colors. This is my sort of growing collection of Wakefield handmade pots. This is another one that I got. I think this one actually was called a bulb pot at some point. Anyway, we're going to use this one. And it's just a matter of kind of figuring out how they're going to fit in there. You can bounce them right up against each other, and it is no problem. Okay, now, while I have not sort of done any kind of top decoration on any of the other pots, I do want to do it with this one because I thought that would be fun. So I thought some mushrooms might be fun, and there's some really pretty turkey tails. These are kind of old, but some pretty turkey tails here that I thought I could maybe grab and put on there for a little bit of texture. I think these are a little far gone. Those are a little too much, but this is a nice one, so we can throw that on there. Let's see if we can find some like pine cones too. Okay, so now I found, I don't know if this will work, but I'm just going to forage a few little things here. These are some really beautiful clematis seed pods from Grave Tie Beauty clematis that is growing up in the serviceberry tree here. Okay. All right. Now I see some really pretty pine cones, but they are way up there and I can't get those down. So maybe I can find some laying on the ground. All right, so I didn't, when I used this moss, the sheet moss, the first time to line those green pots, I didn't even reconstitute it. But I am going to do that with these. And I am going to put like a little bit of this around the top here. Okay, now let's put in some of the fun stuff. All of these things can be put in or taken out at any time. This is a very low commitment project, so you should do whatever you feel like having in there. I've also done tiny little Christmas ornaments as a little mulch, which is pretty cute. Perch that guy right there. I only got like one good pine cone and a lot of like fairly ratty ones, so I don't know exactly how that's gonna go, but I feel like the pine cones I collected were fairly old. But I do love these little clematis seed heads. And you know, this is something that maybe I'll just keep it like this for, you know, so there's something interesting to look at while this one, because this one's a little bigger, so it's a little harder to just stick in a corner somewhere. So maybe this is something that just looks good until we really get a flower show going, and then depending on when those flowers bloom, maybe then I change this out for something that's perhaps a little bit more festive. Okay, I have found more stuff, including these, which were sold as, which I think are like little mini rose hips. They look a lot like pepperberries to me, but they were sold to me as rose hips, which I got for some of the Christmas pots, but I did cut a few off. But I mean, those are so, these little cute guys. Kind of tuck those guys in there too. There we go. I don't know. At this point, we're just making it up. I did cut a few of these. This is Queen Tut papyrus, which is still growing. I mean, I don't know what those are gonna, how those are gonna age in this pot, but I think maybe I'm getting a little nuts right now. But, I mean, we'll see how long those are not gonna last. Never mind. Okay, and then I do have some yellow twig dogwood too. And I think we can put a few of these in here now. This is something that I might add to other pots as things grow, but that's too tall. But for this one, I thought, since we're sort of decorating this one a little bit now, I hate an even number in there, but maybe I can cut this one off in such a way that it doesn't look like I used double dipped on one stick. There. Okay, so I think this is actually really cute and a little bit different maybe than someone might find. And if you were giving this as a gift, and actually now that I think about it, this would be an amazing Thanksgiving hostess gift, exactly like it is now, because it's very sort of, you know, earthy and Thanksgiving-y the way it is right now, but then it will grow into this beautiful Christmas gift as well. So now I'm changing my mind. Give it as a Thanksgiving gift, as a hostess gift. I just want to quickly sum up Amaryllis bulb care. Don't overwater. You don't need to do more than a few little drips of water after you plant them. Just so that that soil is not dry. You don't even need it moist. You just don't want it dry, like sucking moisture out of the bulbs. Once you start seeing some growth, then you can water a little bit, let it dry out in between. In general, water less than you think you need to. And as far as sun goes, you don't have to worry about light for these until they start pushing out growth. Once they push out growth, then they do need bright light. So put them in a bright window or an area that gets good light. Once the flower stalks start coming up, rotate them so that otherwise the flower stalks will point directly at the light. You want your flower stalks growing up straight. And remember, you can move these around. So keep them when you're not looking at them, keep them in the brightest spot for them to get really good light. And then when you want to look at them and have them out, move them there and then move them back. They're great for that. Okay, so here we are. A pretty little fallish into Christmas Amaryllis bulb planting. I can't wait to show you these once they're growing because these are going to be spectacular.